If God is all-powerful, why is there so much evil in the world? Or any evil at all? How have I not done a video on this yet? I know I say this almost every video, but this is one of the most common questions that critics raise. Even Christians sometimes struggle with this question too. Because you would think that an all-powerful, loving God would eradicate evil if he allowed it to exist in the first place. So how can the Christian idea of God exist when evil exists in the world? For a lot of Christians, this question causes an existential crisis, if it doesn't cause disbelief in God altogether. They'll start asking questions like, does God really care for us? Is God actually good? Does he actually have a plan for our well-being? And you can still answer yes to all of these questions when faced with the problem of evil. Because there are a lot of answers to the problem of evil that oftentimes critics aren't even aware of. And at the risk of sounding insulting, critics often wrongfully think that this argument is a trump card against theism. But the truth is, it's really not even clever. The problem of evil is thousands of years old, and hundreds of thinkers over history has responded to it in a lot of their own ways. But the first thing that needs to be understood is the theological impact of sin. The sun just came out, so if the color on the video changes, it's not my fault. I haven't gotten that good at video editing yet. And when I say the theological impact of sin, I don't mean the justification for the presence of sin. Because I know somebody out there is gonna be like, oh, but God created us sinful, so he's unjust. It's things like that that makes me think that critics don't even want to try and understand. I think there's a sense of entitlement that kind of follows this question as a result of the misunderstanding of sin. The question assumes that we as human beings are entitled to the eradication of the impacts of evil. It assumes a concept and perception of sin that does not understand the idea of total depravity. In a way, the problem of evil is kind of a glass is half empty question. It looks at the world and says, look at what we're missing. But the reality of it is, if we assume Christianity be true, then we should have a lot less than what we actually have. Or in other words, we should be so consumed with the impacts of evil that we shouldn't even have the ability to self-righteously complain about how God isn't doing his job. And that's if the world looked the way that it should. If we don't understand that, we can't even have a coherent understanding of Christianity, let alone the problem of evil. As far as arguments go, there's hundreds that you can go through, but my personal favorite is the one written by C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis explains that by offering humanity only one single option of living according to God's will, he would be acting in slavery against our own will. And since the forcing against our will would be evil, it would have been inconsistent of God to not offer another option outside of himself. So in doing so, God is consistent with his goodness and character by offering the introduction of evil into the world. It's basically not God or God. It's your choice. This end part gets a little tricky, and it gets overcomplicated by critics that try to say that free will doesn't exist according to Christian doctrine. Which you can't actually say with confidence because Christian doctrine covers a wide spectrum of different coherent epistemologies. Regardless of where you stand on soteriology, you are empowered to make the decision to pursue an eternity with God or an eternity with the evil that we see in the world today. How do you answer the problem of evil? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. But that's all I have for you in this video. Thanks so much for watching, thanks so much for arguing with me, and I'll see you on the next one.